Hello, welcome to Veddi Inspires, and welcome to the Strictly Personal Part 17. And we are starting from when we left off from Part 16. We're going to start talking about the three critical things that you should consider in terms of trying to start unwinding your anxious brain. And the three things to consider, the number one is the extent at which this anxiety interferes with your goal. So you might have different types of anxiety, things that affect you maybe at work or your personal life or maybe at school. You want to start with the one that interferes with your life goal. So for example, if you are in sales and you are anxious about approaching a sales call, you might want to start with that anxiety first because you don't make a sale, you don't feed your family, or you don't feed yourself, or you can pay your bills. So that's obviously interfering with your life goal. So you might want to start with that anxiety first, because getting a reprieve in this area will give you the most relief at this point in time. And then the second thing to consider is the amount of distress that they're causing you. So if this sales example that we are starting on with, how is it affecting you? What kind of distress? Are you in mortal terror of approaching your sales call? Or are you in mortal terror of approaching someone in a social situation that you are not able to express yourself? You know what to say, but once you are in front of the prospect, you just lose your nerve because you're too nervous, or you are afraid of presenting something. And the third thing is the frequency. How often does this occur? Right? And this is how you want to measure it. First, which one is interfering with your life goal? Second, what amount of distress from a scale 1 to 10 or 1 to 20? And then the last one, how often does it occur? Because the more you understand yourself in terms of mapping out your habit loop, your anxiety loop, in terms of how it affects you, the much more clearer it becomes on what you need to work to. Now, the key here is not to focus on fixing, it's to focus on exploring, understanding first how these anxiety habitual patterns is affecting you and to the what frequency they are affecting you. Because the driving force here shouldn't be your anxiety. The driving force here should be your life goal. Because often we know what we don't want. But the key trick here to changing this anxiety habitual patterns is to focus on what you want. Right? It's much more better to seek to seek pleasure than avoiding pain. Now, avoiding pain might be a strong motivator, but it's not a sustaining motivator. It's not based on how the brain learns. The brain learns on reward-based learning. We learn by reinforcements, and it's better if it's a positive one that adds instead of subtracts. So it's to focus on your goal, not focusing on avoiding anxiety. Because your goal then will lead you to avoid the anxiety, but the driving force should be your goal. So I hope that's clear enough in terms of, starting to really dive into the reasons that you are anxious, and also understanding how to prioritize which anxieties to work on and how often they appear. And the next thing is identifying the triggers. What are your triggers? What kind of thoughts brings on this anxiety pattern? What situation do you have to be in? What kind of weather brings on this anxiety? What kind of a person or a situation or a specific environment drives this anxiety? Or maybe at work, for example, the job anxiety triggers could be angry customers over the phone. It could be, time running slow. You're 2 hours in and you still have 6 hours to go, and you're wondering how are you gonna get through the next 6 hours? And that starts to make you to feel tired, feel like lackadaisical. You're no longer focusing on the things you were trained to do as a customer service agent, as a sales professional. Or maybe you start daydreaming about the worries that are facing you after work, and then you start to impress on your mind already. Mindfully, you're already after work, you're already starting to worry, you're already starting to put yourself in that negative mental state. And now at work, you're not focusing on your customer, you're not giving your best because mentally you're already out of work. Or maybe you start daydreaming about things that are not related to your work. Or maybe you start thinking about rejection, fear of rejection. That brings on that emotional feeling, and the behavior is to avoid the sales situation, and that results to you not hitting your sales goals or not hitting your assignment goals, or maybe you're feeling that you are not going to pass an exam. So you reject yourself already. You reject the fact that you are not capable to pass this exam. And then what's the result? You focus on feeling anxious instead of planning and studying. And the result of that is the self-fulfilling prophecy of failing the exam. So what are these triggers? What are the situations that trigger this anxiety that leads to that automatic behavioral outcome? It's like driving blind. It's like literally because our anxiety patterns has been done over and over and over and over again. You don't even think about it when you do it. So part of this exercise is bringing awareness and attention to the habitual patterns that you might be engaging in but not aware of, not being mindful of. And when you're mindful of this, it's easy to get trapped into the fixed mindset, because we tend to see ourselves in terms of our problem, in terms of, wow, okay, I have this problem. How do I fix it? Why am I anxious? Why am I this? Why am I that? And you start with so many questions of fixed mode. And that's a trap, because when you start worrying about fixing, you get drawn into this anxiety, anxious habit loop. Because you think about fixing, you don't come up with answers, you get more anxious. But instead of why, try to focus on what. Right? It's a little shift. Try to focus on what brings an awareness to the present. What are the bodily sensations you're feeling? Tightness of chest, shallowness of breath. How is your breathing? What is the gap between your breathing and breathe out? Try to bring the attention to the now, because awareness, believe it or not, is already in the fixing mode, but you don't want to go into that fixing mode yet. But the awareness already will bring you a temporary reprieve, because your brain is searching for information. And when the information is based on the present, it comes down immediately. And that's how you start to understand the way your brain works. It's bringing awareness to the what instead of the why. The why is based on the fixed mechanism. You're not a car. And why the fixed mechanism might work for a brain surgeon trying to take out a brain tumor, it doesn't work for the psychological anxious pattern that just needs awareness in order to begin to start to process, because what you are lacking is understanding, not lack of information. If you're understanding yourself better, that begins the process of you changing. And some of the things that we create this awareness are some strategies that will bring mindfulness. And I'm sure you've read a lot about meditations, you've read a lot about mindfulness practices, but you haven't really understood why they are important, or why they are needed, or why to practice it. And the part of that is to bring the awareness to the present, to bring the awareness to the habitual pattern and habitual anxious ways that until now you might be operating on automatically. And it's to think about those anxious moments, think about those things that is causing you trigger, and try to write out first the trigger, second the behavior, third the outcome. And the outcome can be a two-parter. The brief maybe outcome that you get, the positive outcome, and then the last negative outcome that you get. Maybe the outcome is a brief temporary distraction from your anxious pattern, and then the lasting outcome of maybe guilt, frustration, depression that comes right after, but you're not paying attention to this, so it's automatic. And the first strategy to bring that awareness to the present is the muscle relaxation technique. Clenching your fists, counting to 10, and simply release. Clench your fists, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Release. Feel this calmness. You tense, you calm. You tense, you calm. And it brings your attention to the present. And it calms down your mind. Second one of the muscle relaxation technique is also the shrugging of shoulders. Right? You're gonna shrug your shoulders like that. You tense it up. When you feel that tense, you want to release slowly and exhale. You tense, hold for about 5 seconds or so, exhale. And all this is a part of that relaxation technique that will bring your attention to the present. And there's all kinds of mindfulness and self-awareness bringing techniques that will bring more awareness to your anxious pattern. And this is the thing about anxiety is awareness. Anxiety, solution to anxiety is equals to awareness. And then substituting that awareness of the problem of what's causing it, and then substituting the reward-based learning of a temporary reprieve to a sustainable-based learning of a long-term reprieve. And on the next video, we're going to touch more about the anxious pattern, how to map it out. I'm actually going to make it in a PowerPoint format in a way that I'm going to use the examples of me mapping out my own anxious pattern and the ways that I have started to be more mindful and substituting for a better, bigger reward-based offer instead of the temporary reprieve that is reinforcing the anxiety and habitual patterns. And that will be in the next Strictly Personal. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Be great. Subscribe. I know only a percentage of you are subscribed yet. If you're getting value from this video, smash that like button, subscribe so you can support the content that I'm making. And of course, stay inspired and see you next time.